You're walking down a hallway, phone in your hand, half paying attention to a text you're typing, when somewhere behind you a door slams. Your shoulders jump, your heart slams against your ribs, your hand tightens around the phone, and all of this happens before you've even turned your head to see what made the noise. You don't decide to flinch. You don't have time to. By the time the thought, "What was that?" shows up in your mind, your body has already reacted, already braced, already prepared to run or fight or freeze. So here's the question worth sitting with for a second. If you didn't decide to flinch, then who did? The honest answer is that a part of your brain made that decision for you, and it made it without ever asking your permission. It didn't wait for you to identify the sound, judge whether it was dangerous, or think through what to do next. It just acted. And the reason it works this way isn't a glitch. It isn't your nervous system being clumsy or overreacting to a slammed door. It's a design choice, carved into your skull over millions of years. And once you understand it, you'll never experience a flinch the same way again. To understand what's really happening in that half second, you have to go inside the brain of a neuroscientist named Joseph Ledoux, who spent decades tracing exactly what happens between the moment a sound hits your ear and the moment you become aware of feeling afraid. What he found broke apart the assumption almost everyone carries around without question, the assumption that you feel fear first and your body reacts second. Ledoux discovered it's the other way around. There are two separate pathways racing through your brain the instant something startling happens, and they are not racing at the same speed. One pathway is slow and careful. It runs the sound or the sight through your thalamus up into your cortex, the part of your brain responsible for actually recognizing what you're looking at or listening to. This is the pathway that lets you think, "Oh, that was just a door," or "That was just a car backfiring." It's accurate, it's thoughtful, and it's too slow to save your life if the door slam had actually been a threat. The other pathway is a shortcut. Ledoux called it the low road, and it skips the thinking brain almost entirely. Instead, the signal goes straight from your senses to a small almond-shaped cluster of neurons buried deep in your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala doesn't know what it just heard. It doesn't know if it was a slammed door or a gunshot. It only knows one thing. This is loud, this is sudden, and sudden things have killed our ancestors before. So it fires, immediately. Your muscles tense, your pupils widen, your heart rate spikes, all before the slower, smarter part of your brain has even finished processing what the sound was. You are, for that half second, being protected by a part of yourself that is faster than your own conscious thought. Now here's where it gets stranger, because this shortcut wasn't built for slamming doors or dropped phones. It was built for something else entirely. And the clearest proof of that comes from a different set of researchers, Arne Oman and Susan Mineka, who ran an experiment that still gets cited today whenever someone wants to understand exactly why fear works the way it does. They showed people and lab-raised monkeys images of snakes, flowers, and other neutral objects, and then measured how quickly fear could be learned around each one. What they found was almost unfair. Fear of snakes could be learned by watching another monkey react with fear just once, a single viewing, and it stuck permanently. Fear of a flower, shown the exact same way, barely stuck at all, even after repeated exposure. Your brain, it turns out, isn't equally afraid of everything. It comes preloaded, ready to snap into fear faster for certain shapes, certain sounds, certain patterns, because those patterns represented real threats for hundreds of thousands of years before flowers or car alarms or slamming doors ever existed. Think about what that means for a moment. The wiring sprinting through your skull right now, the exact same amygdala, the exact same low road, was shaped by ancestors standing at the edge of tall grass, listening for the difference between wind and something moving with intention, a rustle that could be nothing, or could be a predator low enough to the ground that you'd only get one chance to notice it. The humans who hesitated, who waited for their slow, careful thinking brain to confirm the danger before reacting, didn't get many chances to pass that hesitation on to the next generation. The humans who flinched first and thought later did. Every single person alive today is, in that very specific sense, descended from flinchers. That's the part that should make you look at your own body differently. That jump in your chest when a car horn blares 2 feet away isn't your nervous system malfunctioning. It's a survival mechanism doing exactly what it was built to do, just aimed at a world it was never designed for. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed cat and a text notification buzzing against your leg in a quiet meeting. It just knows sudden, and sudden used to mean something was trying to kill you. Here's the twist most people never think about, though. If the amygdala reacts before you're even aware what triggered it, that means a piece of your emotional life is happening in the dark, completely outside your awareness, before your conscious mind gets involved at all. You like to think of yourself as the one making decisions in your head, weighing information, choosing how to feel. But for that first fraction of a second, you're not choosing anything. You're just along for the ride, catching up to a decision your brain already made on your behalf. Some researchers have described this gap, the space between the body reacting and the mind understanding why, as one of the strangest features of being human. You are not one unified thinker sitting calmly behind your eyes. You are a fast, ancient alarm system with a slower, more thoughtful narrator riding on top of it, and the narrator usually only finds out what happened after the fact. This is where things start to mirror your everyday life in ways you've probably never connected to any of this. Think about road rage, the flash of fury that shows up before you've even processed that the other driver cut you off. Think about the sudden dread you feel scrolling through a group chat before you've read a single word, just from seeing 3 dots appear and disappear, appear and disappear. Think about the jolt you get from a notification sound at 2 in the morning, your body already bracing for bad news before your mind has any information at all. None of that is your imagination running wild. That's the low road, still working exactly the way it worked for your ancestors, still trying to protect you from an unknown rustle in the grass, except the grass now looks like a phone screen and a Slack channel and a stranger's headlights in your rearview mirror. And once you know this, you start noticing it everywhere. The tension in your shoulders during a scary movie, even though some part of you knows it's not real. The flinch when someone claps their hands unexpectedly behind you, the way your stomach drops before an elevator even finishes its jolt downward. Each one is the same ancient circuit, still doing its job, still convinced that hesitation is more dangerous than a false alarm. It would rather make you jump 1,000 times at nothing than fail to warn you once about something real. It's worth pausing on just how measurable this gap really is, because it isn't some vague idea researchers came up with to sound clever. When scientists have timed it in the lab, the amygdala's response to a threatening image can register in as little as 1/10 of a second, while the moment you consciously recognize and label what you saw can take several times that long. 1/10 of a second sounds like nothing until you remember that 1/10 of a second is roughly how long a snake to strike, or a branch to snap, or a car to close the last few feet of distance between you and disaster. That gap wasn't an accident of evolution, it was the entire point. Any ancestor whose brain waited for full understanding before moving its feet was an ancestor who often didn't get a second chance to learn the lesson. What makes this even stranger is that your body can be afraid of something your mind insists isn't there at all. Show someone a photograph flashed on a screen for such a short fraction of a second that they can't even say what they saw, and if that image was a snake or an angry face, their skin sweats, their pulse climbs, their amygdala still fires, all without a single conscious thought entering the picture. You can be, in a very real sense, afraid of something you never even knew you saw. That single fact undoes the tidy story most people carry around, the one where fear starts as a thought and only afterwards turns into a feeling in the body. For a huge portion of your emotional life, the feeling comes first, sometimes minutes before the thought ever catches up, and sometimes the thought never catches up at all. There's a strange kind of comfort in that if you let yourself sit with it. The parts of you that feel the most out of control, the flinch, the racing heart, the sudden wave of dread, aren't evidence that something is wrong with you. They're evidence that something very old inside you is still doing exactly what it evolved to do, faithfully, tirelessly, without ever once asking your permission. You didn't choose to be built this way. Nobody does. But every person who ever walked before you and survived long enough to have children carried the exact same wiring, tuned by every rustle in the grass they ever lived through. So the next time a door slams somewhere behind you and your body jumps before your mind even understands why, don't be embarrassed by it, and don't try to talk yourself out of it in the moment. Just notice it. Notice that for a fraction of a second, you weren't the one in charge. Something older was. Something that's been keeping people like you alive since long before there were hallways or doors or phones to look up from at all.